Yeah, so I just want to talk about the Hampstead case, the Hampstead cover-up, my involvement in it. Obviously, like everyone else, I'd seen the videos via YouTube, the shocking videos.
The same name. Andrew and the underage sex slave. That's the headline in Britain's Daily Mail newspaper today, and there are variations of it on almost every front page. They're referring to one of the Queen's sons, Prince Andrew, fifth in line to the throne. And so serious are the allegations against him that Buckingham Palace has taken the unusual step of issuing a media statement to say that, and I quote, any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue. The accusations against him are made in court papers in the United States by a woman who claims she was forced to have underage sex with Prince Andrew by his friend, the wealthy American banker Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein has already spent just over a year in prison after being allowed to strike a plea bargain in which he admitted 2 charges of sex with someone who...
Sex with Jane Doe 3 is how she's named in these papers, as did the allegations go Prince Andrew. And also it suggests here that you were witness to sexual abuse of other minors by Jeffrey Epstein. Mm-hmm. Now, can you give us some sense, though, of why you are tied into this? Do you know Prince Andrew?
I met Prince Andrew on a number of public occasions. He came to my class at Harvard Law School and spoke to the students. I met him at a birthday party by Lord Evelyn Rothschild, but I've never been alone with Prince Andrew. I've never been at a party with any women with Prince Andrew, and I'm certainly not a witness or participant in any sexual activities whatsoever.
Have you met him with Jeffrey Epstein?
I met him, Jeffrey Epstein, if I'm not mistaken, was at Evelyn Rothschild's party. I've never been alone with Jeffrey Epstein and with Prince Andrew. No, never.
But you have represented Jeffrey Epstein in the past, haven't you? Because it's one thing you're effectively being put in the same situation as Prince Andrew, but you have been involved in this case. I mean...
And our top story, Buckingham Palace has issued a strongly worded denial that Prince Andrew was involved in any impropriety after he was named in American court documents related to a convicted paedophile. Well, the claims were made in a lawsuit connected to the conviction of US billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, a friend of the Prince.
Point out that in the past, Prince Andrew has spent time with Mr. Epstein. He was seen in New York with him back in 2011. That was after Mr. Epstein has spent time in prison. But
Don Hale is an investigative reporter who was given some Home Office documents by the former Labour Cabinet Minister Barbara Castle. And Mr. Hale's on the line. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Just tell us about that and how that fits into what Geoffrey Dickens was alleging.
Well, I think it fits in very well. Barbara Castle she came to see me over a period of time and gave me a dossier of her own documents, which I think was an inquiry looking into the Geoffrey Dickens inquiry. So I think her documents were technically more important than even Geoffrey Dickens' papers.
Why did she give them to you?
Well, I was the editor of the local paper. I'd known her for probably about 6 years. I'd interviewed her before. I used to work with the BBC. I'd interviewed her before, and we were quite sort of chummy, really. So she came to me with this sort of extraordinary story and said, you know, I don't suppose you'd be interested, but... And she started to feed me a number of documents over several weeks.
And these were documents with names?
Oh, yes, they contained names. There was a list of 16 MPs and peers that were allegedly involved with the promoting the Pi network, Britain, into looking into the Dickens dossier.
Right, and what happened next?
Well, it was a strange turn of events because I had the documents were given to me. I was going to run a story on this based on Barbara's quest to find the truth about this matter. And so I made inquiries. There were names given to me in the documents. I first of all contacted the Home Office, asked them about it, and I got a very harsh response. They didn't want to answer any questions and really tried to turn it back on myself to say, where have you got these documents from? Who's given you this and what have you? Very difficult to try and deal with them. Then I contacted several senior MPs and peers that had been named in the documents and again got a similar response. Eventually, I was just told by a senior Liberal that somebody would come and talk to me. And eventually Cyril Smith came down. He appeared the next morning. Again, I knew Cyril Smith. I had interviewed him before and always got on with him very well. But suddenly he turned from Mr. Nice Guy into Mr. Nasty. And he was banging his fist on the table. He was pointing fingers at me, very, very threatening, and demanding that I hand over all the documents to him immediately.
And you eventually did hand them back to what, to the special branch?
Well, I said to Cyril Smith that there's no way I was going to give it to him. I was still researching this and I was still prepared to run a story if I thought it was necessary. He stormed out of the office, and the very next day I had a team from a special branch and the police turned up on the doorstep, pushed me against the wall basically, threatened me with all sorts of things, asked me if I was prepared to hand over my documents. And if I wasn't, I'd be arrested on the spot and could face up to 2 years in jail.
So the question now is what happened to those documents that you handed back, and whether this report is going to throw any light on it?
But I've been contacted by a great many MPs, a lot of people who are ex-special branch or flying squad or whatever, and they are telling me that this has been a complete waste of time, that they weren't looking in the right places. This Geoffrey Dickens dossier does exist, but maybe not in its entire format. It's probably been fragmented by now.
And just to make it clear, Mr. Wanless, who's conducted this most recent investigation, has not spoken to you or tried to speak to you?
No, and MPs find that quite amazing. I've offered to speak to him or to his team, and they just say it's not part of this inquiry.
Okay.
I find it quite strange.
Don Hale, thanks very much for talking to us.
Yeah, Satanism, yeah, it's for idiots and fools. Only fools could believe in that. How could any fool believe in devil or Satan, you idiot fools? Greedy, selfish. That's the type of people who want more, never satisfied. They don't want you to believe in God, they don't want you to believe in love, no, they don't want you to believe in anything. They want to make one world religion, Satanism, and they want everybody to bow down to that. So they can take your children, torture your children, rape them, kill them, harvest their organs, drink their blood and eat their flesh. They've been doing this throughout time. And now they're gonna stop. Because it's time for them to stop.
That I had sex with you.
Just remember, fear is the opposite of faith.
When you did what? When you killed a baby, first time. And you killed a baby?
Fear is the mind killer.
You yourself? With Papa.
At least Gabriel knows that.
But he told me to cut the baby's head off. But he forced me to. I couldn't kill the baby and eat it and drink the blood from it.
Is that true, Gabriel?
Yes. And we dance with the skulls.
You what?
We dance with the skulls in the church.
What skulls?
Skulls of the baby.
Pardon?
Baby skulls. The skulls of the baby. We go and dance with the skulls. We have a church, our own big church, and we use it for sex, eating baby, drinking baby's blood. We sacrifice the baby, we do sex to the babies, we throw them, when we're dancing with the skulls after the babies are dead.
What skulls?
The baby skulls.
Before?
Yeah, from before. We put it on.
Where did the baby skulls come from?
They come from the baby.
How would you get them from the baby?
We cut the baby's head off, then we kill the meat from the skulls, and then we put all the meat and cook it. Sometimes we roast it, sometimes we roast it in the oven, sometimes we cook it on a frying pan.
You told me that.
Here.
The children.
They hurt them, they do sex to them, then they pay sweeties for them. And
What did they do to you? Sweeties.
And they pay sweeties like
For sex?
Yeah, for sex, and a bumper bag of sweets. And we have Mentos, we have Snickers, we have Mars, we have the church, the big church in Hampstead. They do sex, then they go all, and that's where they go all together and they do sex.
Well, you've got Psalms?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me, my rod and my staff is a refuge to me. There's the police. There's the police, Ella. There's the world of...
Yeah, on the 11th, when Alisa said that you hit them with a spoon, and this is that they called us in and explained that they're taking children into protective custody based on this. Now they asked us, I asked you whether it was true that you did it, and you admitted and explained why.
And when it happened.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Would you explain,
was
please?
that when she wiped my toothbrush around the Moroccan toilet? A few times, and we were on the toilet for 10 days and we didn't know why. Well, I knew someone had been tampering with my toothbrush. And
then with the food as well.
And then they were putting poo on our
But why
food.
did they do that?
Why were they doing it? Because they didn't really want to reveal.
They wanted, and they didn't.
Every
at
time
the same
they touched,
time.
I used to wonder, it came to me a moment ago, I used to wonder, what was the key? What made them switch? Why would they want, you know, most of the time being fine, cooperative and having fun and play, and then they'd switch? I believe it was when they touched, as the father told them to touch intimately, that's when they'd switch, they'd become
His energy will come in.
That's right.
And play with our minds.
And they become
in
like
this,
something.
like in this, probably that's how this mind control program works.
Wow.
I would imagine.
Looks like that possibly could be a mechanism.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they will become almost hostile. Stop talking and do some I would say devious things, like, you know, putting poo on the toothbrush or
poo on the food,
something like that. And that's why, you know, you've been warned, they've been warned. I think this on one of the occasions you hit them with a spoon on their forehead, and I was there as well. So when the police asked me what I knew about it, yes, I said I did. And that's why they took children into care.
Could you walk us through that sequence of events?
Okay. However, back to disclosures. We finished the disclosure.
Okay.
What happened was that at one time we felt our lives. We felt threatened by the children.
I see.
And Ella questioned Lisa, because we later learned that they've been brainwashed using some sort of mind control technique, and that had been told for 2 years. How many years had you been telling me to do this?
For about 2 years before that, the father was telling them to kill me.
So we're just attempting to give you an insight into the nightmare that we and the children experienced during the disclosures. We often forget to explain to people that every time they did touch, we really felt the manifestation of demonic energy every time they did touch. Right. And we were in a battle with the children to keep them separate and to prevent them from touching intimately.
Well, not separate. When we were together, but we wouldn't leave them kind of two of them in a different room.
You couldn't leave them alone for a second, because they would take the opportunity to touch intimately, and that would manifest that demonic energy. I don't know how it works. I haven't done enough research, but this seems to be the mechanism, or some sort of mechanism that they use to create this energy. They're working with demonic forces, so I don't know, they will eventually become adept at. So that's something that we experience.
Yeah. And well, coming back to the question, right?
Where's the question? What was the question again? Let's get back to how did it manifest? Yeah.
No, how did it
how did when we got to the police station?
No, how the material got online, right?
Well, what happened is that whilst we were in Morocco, we became very concerned. When during the disclosure, we became very concerned, and we were wondering, to whom should we report these disclosures? Who would we speak to? we considered speaking to a firm of solicitors that have represented me in the past. And then we decided to go with my brother-in-law, who's a police sergeant. And Jean Clément, he's from the Ivory Coast. And whilst he may be naive in the ways of, how will I say, the culture of paedophilia in the UK, he's honest and he's a decent man, which is why we decided to call him and give him a clue as to the situation. And he was the person that we went directly to when we flew back to the UK on September the 4th. We didn't rest, we went directly to see him and get him to speak to the children, let the children speak to him.
Right.
And we quickly, after 2 or 3 days, we quickly realized that we had been betrayed.
After a few days, you quickly realized what?
We realized we'd been betrayed because the first 2 officers that came to the house, because we felt confident that we'd gotten the children back, we'd gotten the story out of them, under duress. It would have been a terrible time for us and for the children. It was terrible. But we'd gone through that. We'd gone through it. We'd come out the other end. The children were happy. They were happy that, they'd been able to disclose, and that we come to the UK, and we all felt that we were going to achieve justice, and we'd get help from from someone in authority.
Right.
We're aware of the corruption within the police system, within social services, within the judicial system, but we naively assumed that there would be some good people that would help us within these institutions. But we quickly learned that these institutions, all the positions of power, have been taken by members or affiliates or people who are subordinate to the cult members. And it seems we've slept, we've been asleep, humanity has been asleep, and we've allowed these demonic forces to take over all the governing institutions on the planet.
9 to 10 officers came to your home, and the children were kidnapped?
That was later.
That happened in September. Now, children have been taken into care on the 11th.
Yeah.
We took them along for an interview.
They invited us for an interview.
This is on September 11th, 2014?
That's correct. And also, I was interviewed as well, while children have been interviewed. And they tricked us into the building because we agreed between us that for the security reason we're not gonna go into the building altogether. But they tricked us, me to call Abraham to come back with Gabriel, because Gabriel was interviewed first. So at least Lisa was interviewed first. I don't remember this now. And so they learned about Gabriel hitting them with a spoon, and Abraham. What did I say? Gabriel. Oh yes. There's so much talking now. Yes, and Alisa mentioned about this, and based on that, they took children into custody, and as well on the because of the series of allegations. And the third point, which I learned later, they tried to frame me as a mad woman. That's right, where Matt Fernandez, who was one of the detectives involved in the case, he called me next day after children been taken. He said that we have concern about your mental health. And I asked, why is that? How did you conclude this? And he said that I didn't fight with them, I didn't break into hysteria. So I kept the emotional poise. And I mean, what can I do? I mean, they explained that they have rights to take children of me, and have to get a legal representative. Of course, it was shocking and devastating. I actually probably was in too much shock to even say something. And I said, well, if you said to try and fight with you or something like that, you would definitely take me into the mental hospital, wouldn't you? So he didn't kind of pursue it. But then I learned that on the 9th, which is 2 days before they took children into care, they held a strategy meeting where they already agreed what they're going to do. They're going to take children into custody. This is even before they learned that Abraham hit children with a spoon. Also, one of them, I think the social worker, I think I would imagine in a high position in the social services, she suggested that mother is crazy. And also, what else? Something else. And also, most likely that we coached them to say the story.
9 to 10 officers came to your home and the children were kidnapped?
That was later.
That happened in September. Now, children have been taken into care on the 11th.
Yeah.
We took them along for an interview.
They invited us for an interview.
This is on September 11th, 2014?
That's correct. And also, I was interviewed as well, while children been interviewed. And they tricked us into the building because we agreed between us that for the security reason, we're not going to go into the building altogether. But they tricked us, me to call Abraham to come back with Gabriel, because Gabriel was interviewed first. So,
from Barnet police station, they started moving you further and further away. So was that, do you think, so you couldn't get no supporters down Barnet, which is your man or whatever?
They moved us away, they moved the children away.
Right.
They moved us away, they moved the children away.
Yeah, but I mean...
They had to get the children away. They had to get the children away because the children knew too much.
What about the social services? I mean, obviously they were they from the 5th, were they there, or were they from the 11th?
No, they were... Which one?
Well, they've been involved in your life.
Right. The only time they, well, as far as we are aware, the first time they came was on the 10th. They came to my house unannounced, claiming they tried to call me, but they couldn't get through, although I didn't have any missed calls. Anyway, they just came to surprise us, I would imagine. 6 people, I think, came. A couple of social workers and I think 4 policemen.
Yeah, they all come at the same time.
Yeah, they came to our house and they were insisting to come in and talk to us and see the children.
And did they actually come in the house?
Yes, they came in the house and they...
I mean, for police, it sounds like they was thinking about taking the children then, so...
They must have, but because we were quite complying, we were trusting still, they decided perhaps not to do it.
Right, and they obviously they couldn't see anything inside the house that would cause them to do anything like that.
Because I didn't realize it, like you actually drew our attention to that. 6 people came, why 6 people, and they were quite insisting on seeing children, remember?
We didn't know that. Yeah, no, fine.
It was in strict confidential sort of way.
Because you was actually doing your own video, wasn't you? So she must have been aware of that.
Sorry?
You was actually going to do your own video, wasn't you? So,
yes, no, not at that point, not at that point.
Okay,
we're talking back in December. Because remember, we believed that these videos were published, for a long time we believed that it was, these videos were published in February. I thought it was published on the 10th. And on the 11th, I had a meeting with Mackenzie friends, and it was for the second time I told Sabine that to make sure not to publish anything, and she kept quiet, and everybody else in the room kept quiet, and in fact they already knew that last evening this video has gone viral already, so they kept quiet, they didn't tell me anything. And now we're learning that some people already watched those videos in December, on the 15th of December. And this was, I would imagine, she put those videos up.
Why do you think they put the videos out then? I mean, if she wasn't actually thinking about doing it yourself at that point.
Well, as she said in the email later on, she's done it her way. Yeah. But for some reason, you see, we had said. So I had a meeting with them. I don't remember, the Tuesday was 11th or 10th, but we also had a meeting with them on the 2nd with Mackenzie Friends, where we discussed that we're thinking to make those private videos public. Especially those videos were not part of the court material. So really, I could do anything. I could have done anything I wanted with these videos.
What about all these videos going up over the net with the children's faces? I mean,
to be quite honest, I regret that somewhat.
Yeah.
I think it's regrettable. I think because the mother herself, she was on the point of producing her digest of the videos.
Yeah.
With the faces blurred.
Right. Okay.
Right? And she hadn't quite finished the tape, the video footage.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly all erupted. You know.
Well, I mean, how did it all suddenly erupt then? I mean, who had the videos to put them online with
a lot of people over the months since last September have been shown the evidence.
Right. Okay.
Including members of Russia Today.
Right.
TV,
Okay.
And some Russian people. Oh, thank you too. Thank you. And then we, the Mackenzie Friends Association, have had the materials since early November.
Yeah.
I tried to persuade my colleagues that it was best to sit on this until the family case had been concluded.
Yeah.
And to choose very carefully the moment when to release this on the world, as it were. If it was good to release it at all. And anyway, we should rush to release it.
And when she heard that, what happened there? Remember?
Well,
she said
what happened is you had asked categorically, you asked them not to publish.
Yeah, I asked. Yes, we asked them categorically.
Abuse emerged during a long-running family court case in which Ricky, the father, was trying to arrange contact with his children. Family court proceedings, as you know, are normally confidential, but in this case, the judge took the unusual decision to make her judgment public. In it, she exonerated the father and other people said to be involved, stating that the abuse claims were baseless and that those who sought to perpetuate them were evil and/or foolish. She described the treatment of the children by their mother and her partner as torture. The judge is also aware that Ricky is speaking to us. In this exclusive interview, the 45-year-old father reveals for the first time that he's still receiving death threats from people who continue to believe the claims. We're not using Ricky's surname in order to protect his children, and some of what he describes is harrowing and graphic, but gives an insight into what he was accused of. He explained when he first heard about the claims being made against him.
It was 2014, September, and I can't remember how, but I found out that the police were looking for me. It might have been social services got in touch with me and said that you need to go to the police station and the children have been taken away from your mom. And I'm saying, why? Well, why are they being taken away from the mom? What's going on? And they wouldn't tell me anything. I was kind of freaking out a little bit.
What did the police say to you that you'd been accused of?
They said, I'm okay with what they said. It was more that it had come from my children. They said that my children, my two children,
Okay. Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
They said that I'd sexually abused them.
Because this was their intention. They just want to create a whole heap of bunglings. This is what they do, what they don't realise. This is one of the things that they do. They create a whole heap of bunglings, just to take attention away from, you still there?
Yeah.
Just to take attention away from the facts. So they just come and confuse up, because they want, what they really want to do, they want to discredit.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why specifically. Of course they want to mash you up as well. They want to discredit. The reason is because we're chatting lyrics now and people are listening to us and he knows it. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what was bunning him. Right? Now, because people are listening to us and we've begun to expose the trauma-based mind control, not Rasta. They're not the problem. They're just little nonsense who want a little boy or a little girl to grind. That's all they're on. Right? Yeah, they've been brainwashed and they've been spun to want that. They've been brainwashed they've been mind controlled to want that. Can you dig it?
I hear what you're saying, bro. Yeah. We have to keep them both together, innit? We can't just say we're going to drop that now and this is the main topic, you know?
No. Listen, no, it's not a question of dropping it. No. Mm-hmm. It's a question of realising that the rite of sodomy, where they grind the picnic in the bottom. Well, you got to realise, Rasta, I'm not trying to separate nothing. No. What I'm doing is putting things in their rightful place.
Right.
The end. This is their end goal. Alright?
Yeah.
The paedophilia and all the other thing, they're not too bothered. But now you know why they're covering. Look, this is why they're covering up the Hampstead case so heavily, and this is why the Hampstead case has got a vibe around it like this, because this is their end goal, as it were. This is their intention. Their intention is to create the mind control slaves. And if everyone's talking about Satanism and this and paedophilia, they don't mind. They're happy. They were cool. But as I said, they were quite happy to come and spam our website, our comments. Yeah. They were quite happy. But as soon as we began talking about trauma-based mind control and state-sponsored, because look, Kate Forsdyke, she goes to Camden Education Board meetings regularly that are attended by Tavistock representatives, yeah? She goes regularly and they raise funds all the time. They know about this. They're organising it.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about the Hampstead case, the Hampstead cover-up, my involvement in it. Obviously, like everyone else, I'd seen the videos via YouTube, the shocking videos. And at first all I could do was just re-upload the videos to spread the word. I eventually went down to the school where like the children told. I put them videos online also, trying to spread the word. Later on, the UK column comes on claiming they went down there, which obviously I don't think they did. But they had to come back. They couldn't have someone such as myself, not affiliated to anyone dealing with this case. It was their little thing to be dealing with. Anyway, I got an email from Ella and Abraham, eventually a phone call, saying they'd seen the videos and appreciated the work, and we became a little team to try and spread this word about their children, the abuse, the fact that they've been taken into care. But this case is weird, very weird, right from the start. You have people like Paul Joseph Watson with his hoax, bizarre satanic ritual described by children video, calling it a hoax before evidence has even hit the mainstream, before the main evidence even come out. People start calling this a hoax, which don't make no sense, it don't add up. It's a bit too early, but obviously people had prior knowledge of this case. People in the alternate media was aware of it long before the public were, and got to choose whose side they was going to be on. Now, when these people call it a hoax, maybe they've got a point. And the people like Belinda and Sabine, Brian Garish, the no-show Bill Maloney working in the background, Hampstead Research. See, this is the thing. Hampstead Research was there. They thought they was going to be in control, dealing with this. But their little way of doing it just went overboard. Too many names coming out. Too many people allegedly involved. Mistakes being made. People's names being mentioned, not even involved. Something went right with their little show. And then it comes out that they're linked with the Mackenzie friends, Belinda Mackenzie, Jackie Farmer of Hampstead Research, staying in her house, which she admitted to. Too many bad links, too many agents. At the end of the day, it's looking more and more like some kind of psyop, Tavistock. Probably to take out the Westminster Royal child abuse allegations, put a bit of doubt in people's minds when it comes to this subject. The laws they want to change on the internet, which with Hampstead Research putting up people's Facebook's account that weren't even mentioned by the children, rightly or wrongly, it was just going too far. Basically, everything was done to put this whole child abuse subject out of people's mind, to put as much doubt in people's mind, as much confusion, and that's what it's about. It's about total confusion, confusing the whole situation. So in the end, you can't be bothered, or there's too much doubt there in your mind about it. I don't know what the answer is. I tried my best. But what can you do when, it's the mum and the boyfriend's case? It's up to them how they want to deal with it. They're calling it mind control now. That's their big thing. Got their t-shirts, their mugs, their donation button, they're doing their seminars. I've told them I don't agree with it. And I still don't agree with it. There's nothing more I can do. Children were in the cult, they grew up in the cult, and they're still with the cult. they were used by the cult for a bigger operation, PSYOP. So obviously the videos, they came out on YouTube, the original ones, at the airport with Abraham and Ella talking about the abuse, the area, the people involved. Later on we got somehow the police interviews leaked online via a website called Zeke Lee TV, which is probably another PSYOP site set up alternate to YouTube with lower numbers, lower subscribers. So anyway, that's where the police videos were leaked, and also a lot of the videos from Hampstead research were leaked via that website as well, by Jackie Farmer. I managed to get the videos off of there, stick them onto YouTube. Where obviously there's more people, a wider audience, the message is going to get spread faster. Anyway, at first, I was in contact with Jackie Farmer. She sent me an email, I responded to it. I got involved with their little thing. But it was soon quite obvious that something weren't right with their little setup. Their links to the Mackenzie Friends, and the Mackenzie Friends linked to the paedophiles. See, this is the thing, the bigger picture, the Westminster, the royals, the elite. That's the main subject here, which they've got to put doubt in people's minds is not true. Now, how would they go about something like that? How would they convince people and put doubt in people's mind? They had to come with something big, something bigger, and they had to make it believable, which is why the evidence that the children gave is the truth. They're not lying, they told the truth when they thought they were safe to do so. But what would they know? What would they know? They're young, they've been brought up in the cult, their father was the leader of this cult or a member of this cult. The mum apparently is unaware of the cult links, even though she had a previous marriage and a child with someone in the cult, and the child is also in the cult. The children were saying that their father abused them from when they was a baby. They've seen pictures on his computer proving this. I think the children were used for something bigger, to put doubt in people's mind, confusion, and this case had a lot of confusion. You had the trolls spamming everyone with negative comments and rude comments, and you had Hampstead. Anyone that got involved with the case, their picture was put up, they was bad-mouthed. They was there to put as much doubt in people's mind as possible, that this whole thing's not true, the children lied, they were according to them. But like I said, I don't believe that. I believe the children told the truth when they thought it was safe to do so. So if we look at it from that angle, then everyone in the case, like Abraham, they're the knight in shining armour. The the children wouldn't know if he was involved. Just because their mum hasn't got a tattoo, does that mean that she's not involved? There's all different levels to these cults, secret societies. I think they needed something big to take out the bigger stuff, and they had to make it convincing. And the two children, they done that. They told the truth, and that's why it's so convincing. But everything after that, total confusion. Too many agents, too many donation buttons. You got this alternate media. A lot of them were calling this a hoax well before a lot of the information had even hit the public domain. Obviously, a lot of people was made aware of this evidence well before the public were, and got to decide what angle they was going to come from with this. The government was informed. Sabine sent an email to their Home Secretary. The BBC got involved to put their bit of doubt or confusion in on a mass scale. You've got people like David Sherter and Ed Opperman saying that they believe Abraham's in the cult. He come too quick or whatever, but they think the mum's legit. You got Angie saying similar stuff, that they're in the cult. They all seem to have these donation buttons. Angie, Opperman. Now I listened to a video of Opperman, and what did he want? He wanted a donation because he had a broken mouse and a broken keyboard. It's ridiculous. The guy say he works for The Hague, you know, he was a lawyer, he's a private detective, he's this, he's that, he's got adverts. Why would he need your money to buy a mouse and a keyboard? You know, there's another side up, you know, how it works. They give you a bit of truth. You think, wow, you know, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have learnt about this. But it's the rest of the stuff they do. You know, they don't take you all the way. They don't tell you the full truth. They sidetrack you and confuse you, and there's too much of that. The big names that you would have thought would have been there of the alternate media, not that I believe they're any good, but you know, there was Alex Jones could have got involved. But you know, these people, they're no good. They're just in it for the money. They're in it for the confusion. They got their little sidekick to call it a hoax and make a little video. With Hampstead research, same thing. A lot of confusion going on there. And then you got Ella and Abraham. I mean, I've never been involved in anything like this before. I only spoke to them because they sent me an email, and then we eventually had a phone conversation, and then we were Skyping after that. I don't know none of these people in the case. I only got involved because of the children, because of the videos I've watched. I was in shock. I was peed off, and I thought, nah, enough's enough. Something needs to be done. I got off my sofa. I went out the door and I went to places to look for info. I did this by myself because I'm not affiliated with no one. I don't trust no one. I saw Belinda at the court because it's not about the money. Yeah, money, I need the money. I'm not rich. But when you're doing something like this from the heart, the Creator will provide anyway. It's guidance. So like I'm saying, it's looking like some big psyop operation to confuse the whole child abuse subject, put as much doubt in people's minds, to harass, to troll. I had a bit of a doubt about Ella and Abraham for a while now, long before Shirter and Co come with their 2 pennies worth about it. And I think Ella and Abraham was aware of this. And I also believe that rather than me being the one to come out of it, someone else in this so-called alternate media took that role. Because what seems to be happening is a lot of people, they poo-poo on one another to give themselves credibility and to gain the supporters that are probably thinking that way in the first place. So they all go around pooing on one another. He's this, he's that, he works for this, he works for that, and they're all part of the same thing. It's divide and conquer, and confuse up the place. Yeah, and nothing's going to get done via these people. The only way anything's going to get done is if you go and do it yourself and get your own channel, put out your own information and do your own research. But these people, they come with the truth. Yeah, you have to pass through these places to pick up on information, but it's the way they word it. It's the dead end road. After that, nothing happens. You're just expected to sit down and tune into the next show, and the thing is, everyone's coming off the TV, they're going online, so you gotta expect that where you'd have the news and stuff like that on the TV, you're gonna have this alternate media set up, and now we're learning who the faces are, and that they're not really there to help, they're just there to manage and control the situation and to give as little as possible out. But obviously sometimes they've got to come with something to make themselves look good, but somebody else has probably already come out with that information, and rather than it just being them that comes out with that information, they know that they're gonna get support for it, or the views for it, so they pick up on it and they claim it as their information. Yeah, because the last thing they want is people tuning into someone else that might be telling them more truth, more info than what they were going to give. So, this is how it works. And with this Hampstead case, it was planned out, it was thought out. There was bigger things in the news at the time. They come with a few paedophiles that are arrested and put into prison, but people were still wanting to know more about the big names in the government and all that. They weren't letting up, and this Hampstead thing was the big one to come and confuse up the place. And like I say, I believe the children told the truth about their abuse, but the information was just used, and they needed them to make it look convincing enough for the public, but just with enough doubt, enough trolling, enough agents to confuse up the place.
A secret file containing details about unnatural sexual behaviour at Westminster was not disclosed to a government-backed review into claims of child abuse by high-profile figures. Sky News can exclusively reveal the existence of the document, but the head of the NSPCC, who led last year's investigation, says no one alerted him to it. Sky's Tom Parmenter reports.
First, we will do everything we can to to allow the full investigation of child abuse and the prosecution of its perpetrators.
We're going to leave no stone unturned to find out the truth about what happened.
The promises go right to the very heart of Westminster. We now know the department responsible for the smooth running of government is sitting on a potentially significant file.
We're looking at Prem 19, but if we do an advanced search...
Finding old documents is part of Chris Murphy's job.
So there's quite a few big security issues within these files, like Iranian hostage situation, Irish terrorism.
Absolutely, and as I say, unfortunately, quite a few of them remain closed.
But within these vast archives, he found one that made him stop.
And there it is, allegations against former public of unnatural sexual proclivities, security aspects.
I think I did a double take and then started wondering what the potential implications of the title, which is a little vague, could be.
It was the year after Margaret Thatcher had swept to power.
Where there is error, may we bring truth.
It's highly likely she saw the contents. Documents prepared for the Prime Minister about the sexual practices of somebody of note. 35 years on, it's still classified on grounds of national security. The file is held by officials based here at the Cabinet Office on Whitehall. They've confirmed to us that it still exists. They've also confirmed to us that it is still too sensitive to release. But they have made this promise, that any document that may be relevant will be released to the inquiry into historical child sex abuse. Just last November, these men published their report that searched for government files that may be relevant. Peter Wanless, the chief executive of the NSPCC, has today said this specific file was not revealed by any department or individual we consulted. If there is pertinent material in this file, it should be submitted to the Sexual Abuse Inquiry, as well as the relevant police force, so they can conduct a criminal investigation if necessary.
It's not acceptable that discoveries of files of this nature come about purely by chance. It is essential that there is a systematic trawl through of old files and archives to establish whether there is anything else lurking or hidden that needs to be brought to light.
Thatcher's press secretary, Sir Bernard Ingham, has told Sky News he cannot recall the file, but that she was certainly aware of allegations against a minister. Sir Bernard wasn't able to go on camera, but we asked him, was anything done about this particular minister? He replied, well, I assume the police looked into it. We asked, did the government investigate the minister? Sir Bernard said, well, I asked him about it and he denied it. So no, I didn't do anything else. What was the alternative?
There is no question that there was a cover-up at the time. What's even more startling is that that cover-up seems to be still going on today. Whatever the reasons for keeping things secret in the early 1980s, they are not good reasons for not making them available to the police, the inquiry, and indeed the public today.
We know people in Westminster 3 decades ago were sexually abusing youngsters. The Met Police are now investigating whether children were killed at nearby Dolphin Square. Survivors of all kinds of sexual abuse have individual stories, but they agree on at least one thing. It's time for today's politicians to keep promises, not secrets. Tom Parmenter, Sky News, Westminster.
Tony Blair has insisted he is not responsible for delays